Well, here we are. So, welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you're joining us here on the Broad Agenda. I'm Carrie Sharbo. I recently wrote a piece here on Substack called The Eldest Daughter Awakening about what it means to grow up as the eldest daughter, eldest granddaughter, a latchkey kid, and a survivor, and how so many of us are hitting our 50s or even 40s and saying, I'm not doing this for the next 30 years the way that I did it for the last 30. And I'm grateful that this article resonated with Dr. Ashley Gallagher. Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're going to be talking about our shared experiences of being an eldest daughter, and sometimes in families you are born the eldest and sometimes you function that way. And that is really important to how it shapes our nervous systems, our work, my midlife verdict, because you're not quite there yet, and what it looks like to move from being the family's infrastructure to actually becoming a person. So for people who are tuning in and don't know you, I want to, give a huge shout out to all of your accomplishments and who you are. You're a public health expert. You're a mom of two. You're the voice behind Dr. Ash Gallagher on Instagram and across socials, where you share health news that you can actually trust. You're trained at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health in Columbia, and you're translating, much like I am, these overwhelming headlines into clear, practical guidance for everyday life. You're also a real estate entrepreneur, and you live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with your family. Ashley, you're making me tired.
I am tired.
So I'm so glad that the article again resonated with you. In my article, I describe myself as being the eldest daughter, eldest granddaughter, latchkey kid, and a survivor as four ways of saying for myself that I was trained very early to take care of everybody but myself. And when you hear that, I'd like to know what parts of your own story light up. Like, how did you first learn you were the responsible one in your family?
Yeah, like every part of your article, I was like, check, check, check. Like some, emotional abuse on my end where you're like on eggshells reading the room and then becoming an entrepreneur so you can like have more control and not have someone, bossing you around, but then you're just working all the time and pretty much throughout all of it, like carrying everything on your back. I think a lot of young moms probably are like in that really, really tough part where you're working so hard and then your kids are young and like the amount that you get to think about yourself is often like almost zero. So just like every part of your article, I was like, check, check, check,
Yeah.
which is not
I,
great probably, but
no, it's a huge look, we operate out of love and care for our family, but it often comes at the expense of our own happiness and self-care and mental health. I personally write about growing up where love and harm for me lived in the same body. And I want to
yeah.
know if you experienced that kind of confusion too, and how it shaped what you thought love and care were supposed to feel like.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true and is probably still true and is very complicated if that's like your parental figure that's supposed to like protect you. Those
Hmm.
are like very complicated things to carry through life. And then like, how do you parent through that too?
Right, because you mentioned a while ago growing up without a father. And I grew up with
Hmm.
an emotionally, physically, verbally abusive mother who I think is, undiagnosed, has a specific personality disorder. But she also kicked me
Same.
out of the house at 15. So then
Oh,
I was, parenting my parent, my father, who was emotionally just like not capable of coping on a good day. So it, growing up without a father, and then you mentioned, your mom. Can you just give us a little insight to how that shaped you?
um, it's like so much, but I
Yeah.
mean, I remember like doing the laundry since I was really little and I was so little, I like couldn't reach into the bottom of the
Yeah.
laundry machine and getting in like huge trouble if I like forgot something schedule wise, but I was like 15 and it was pretty normal to and I would get in so much trouble if the car ran out of gas, like all these little things, that later you're like, probably the parent should like know if the car is gonna run out of gas.
Right.
And I think you have a hard time like once you're an adult being like, what should I be doing and what should I be like pushing back on? Because I'm so used to like doing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way. You know, I talk about in this article reading the house like a weather map and
Mm.
having my nervous system on duty 24/7. There was never a time where I felt like I could turn it off. It just becomes part of your being.
Yeah.
Did you also feel like you became that kind of emotional barometer at your home? I mean, you mentioned the
Yeah.
hypervigilance and what it looked like for you as a little girl. And how do you see it showing up in you now? How have
I
you
think I
worked?
just realized now at this age, I'm 40, like I'm really good at reading people, but I think that came from hypervigilance. And I definitely don't think I've learned like how to tamp it down yet, you know? And like my husband grew up in a really like safe family. So I feel like sometimes I see his family like almost putting their foot in their mouth because they like kind of feel safe, like just saying whatever crosses their mind. And I'm like, oh, that person's going to be so upset you said that. And like, I'm like, I can't believe they said that. And weren't thinking how that person was going to receive it. And, but then like, I thought that was normal, you know? And I
So with
don't
your
have the answer yet to how do you like relax a little bit from that.
Yeah. Does he help you with that though? Does that scenario, like when you see like a healthy exchange where people can share their ideas and their feelings and it's not punitive, does that help you?
I mean, I think there's probably somewhere in the middle, like emotional intelligence, but like not afraid to like bring up a hard subject either, because you won't know it won't be like punished or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I write about that. I write about, you know, this unspeakable folding the unspeakable into a to-do list, right? Because we have to be hyper vigilant. We check the boxes, we read the room. So in the piece I say that's what eldest daughters do. We fold the unspeakable into our to-do list. And you know, you mentioned already some of the unspeakable things you carried with you, you know, school, chores, caretaking. Um, and now we're older, right? You'd like to think that we're wiser. And for me, midlife has shown up as a verdict and not a crisis. So I'm framing midlife, um, like I said, as a verdict. My body, my nervous system, and my spirit filling an honest or filing an honest report rather on the first half of your life, right? And so I'm just wondering, what did your own verdict look like or sound like when it arrived? It sounds like you're not really there, but was there a particular moment when you also realized I've lived, you know, these 30 or 40 years and I can't live this way for the rest of my life, or I don't want to? And, you know, what can you do about it?
I feel like I have become better about like creating space for me to do things that are good for me and make me happy. And it is hard because like you're going to get pushback from everything else in your life that's going to have to shift a little bit for you to have a little bit for yourself. And I find it a little bit hard to know like what is reasonable and what like, you know, how flexible should I be or how much should I like hold that boundary.
Hmm.
So I'm like, feel like I'm actually doing, I probably save more space for myself than most moms my age that I
Uh,
know.
uh-huh.
But I also feel like I could do more, you know? So
So I'm so bad at self-care. I've been trying to be better. So can you, and you know, for those of those people listening or watching, what are some of the things that you do? And you know, with your background, especially in public health and mental health, like what are some things that women should be doing, or what are some ideas?
I mean, for me, it's really important to like exercise, but lately I've been learning to play tennis, and that's really lovely because it's like my only, I work from home, so it's actually like my socialization of the day. It's good for you, you're thinking like strategy. So I schedule that in, and it's like everyone always says this, but I try very hard to make it like that can't be canceled, it can't be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then it's just so hard. So one issue I kind of have had ongoing is like once a week, my friends will get together and I want to hang out with them. And then my husband works a lot, so like on a Friday night, he's like, I want to see the family. So this is like a classic issue of like I don't know when to push for like seeing my friends, and I don't know when to be like, oh well, you know, it would also be good family time. So like let me put my social needs to the side. So that's like a classic example of like where I don't quite have an answer yet. And it's like an ongoing like back and forth pool.
Yeah, I think for our family, like over time, my husband was so depleted come Friday, right? So if I wanted to go out with the girls, that's a good night. And then Saturday night is usually when we go out to dinner, or we'd have like a family dinner, or we usually go out on Saturday. So some of the things that I like to do, because I also work from home, um, I was it's weird because like I was cooking, which is caretaking, and then I felt like it was punitive. But I actually had to come to peace with like it's something I really do enjoy. Like I do enjoy like an hour in the kitchen, like it's all like very fresh food, and like I try to cook very healthy. But some other things that I've been adding are like reading. I just ordered a ton of books. I started swimming again, exercising, to your point. I
That's
think that
great.
you have to do that for your mental health, you know? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
reading's also a huge one that I enjoy and is really difficult to fit in for a while. So for now, I just kind of like fit in like a 10-minute stretch at night, like during kids' bath time or
oh, that's a good idea. That's a very
yeah.
good idea.
And I try to
Um,
like put my phone on like don't touch mode so that I will actually like read.
yes, exactly. I know the phones are so addictive.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't know if you had a moment or an experience like this in your life, but everything was kind of hitting ahead. My children were little. Pardon me, we were caretaking older parents. Um, and I remember sitting in my doctor's office and realizing, like, I was in my kitchen and I had an Apple Watch, which I don't wear anymore because now I feel like it's like a jail bracelet. Like it
Yeah.
makes me feel like kind of claustrophobic. Although I did just order this Aura ring. So it doesn't buzz or vibrate. And I was standing in my kitchen and I had my Apple Watch on, and all of a sudden, nobody's home, the house is quiet, and my Apple Watch starts going off at 195 heartbeats.
Oh my
Like my heart rate
gosh.
was 195.
Wow.
And I started having like stroke-like effects, like ended up going to a neurologist. And when I'm super, super stressed, I get these crazy headaches. And so I was realizing this wasn't just stress, but it came from decades of performance and decades of harm catching up with my nervous system. And I was wondering if you had a similar moment where your body made it possible, or impossible rather, to keep performing and saying, I'm fine, and what happened, and if it changed anything for you. Has there been like a particular moment like that in your life where you're like, I can't operate like this anymore?
Well, it's funny, I have the Aura ring and like I'll feel fine and it'll be like you're extremely stressed all day long. But in my head,
Oh,
I'm like, I'm fine. I don't know what it's talking about. And but it's like for months at a time, it's like even my exercise will be on point. Even my sleep, now that my youngest is older, is finally like back almost to normal. And then it'll be like, but your stress is like, so it's like so interesting that it can pick up like you're not okay.
yeah. I just activated mine this morning. It just came yesterday. So I'm so interested to see. I had to check all the boxes, and stress was one of them. So I didn't even know that the ring
Yeah.
could do that. Why do you think as women we're going through this right now and feeling it more deeply? I mean, I think politically we're aligned.
Yeah.
Pay attention to your page.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that extra stress, but why do you think as women we're feeling this more than ever?
Well, kind of what one thing you mentioned with the politics is like, have you seen those poems? They're like beautiful but so sad of like, I'm putting together my lunchbox for tomorrow and like the world is on fire. And it's
Yeah.
like you're literally the craziest stuff is happening and you're doing like math problems with your child, just trying to act normal. And
Yeah.
that's just politics. So maybe you have some real life thing going on as well in your family that you're also trying to like manage. And I was kind of thinking about your article yesterday and I was like, I think part of it is we carry so much and then people kind of are okay with letting us because we're doing everything for them. So who's going to be like, oh, let me help you pick up this burden, you know? Or it's like the classic invisible, like you're doing so much, but it's all acting like it's behind the scenes, everything is looks perfect and is being done. Like, is everyone ever like, oh, we're running out of toilet paper? That's so annoying. And you're like, I've been ordering toilet paper invisibly for 15 years and
Yeah.
you've never said thank you, but then now we ran out and now
Oh
you
no,
know
now
it's
because my kids are teens, they complain about the toilet paper. So I bought that plant-based toilet paper because I'm trying to be more green, and
yeah,
my
same.
son was like, I need this Charmin, mom. I need to squeeze that Charmin. I'm like, all right, well, you've got a car and you've got a credit card. So if you want something
Yeah.
different, then go do it yourself. Like
Yeah.
all of those little things do add up. I mean, my daughter is coming home today from college and she's got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, but she needed a prescription today, and then the doctor, and then the this and the, and you want to help them. And I know you're not there yet. You want to help them grow into adulthood, but it's a practice, right? So they need you less and they need you in a different way. But all of those things, you're right. The toilet paper still needs to be bought. Things need to be scheduled. The vacations need to be planned. The school meetings still need to happen. And we spread ourselves so thin, I feel like as eldest daughters and eldest children, the responsible ones, we are the ones who volunteer. We are the ones who start businesses. And like, that's why I was so interested to read kind of your background. And I don't know if you feel this way, but having gone through your training and your education and then, other business ventures, I talk about in this article work and leadership as a possible jailbreak. So I talk about how so many of us become leaders or founders and how work can be an attempted jailbreak from systems that feel like our childhood. So has work or leadership ever felt like a jailbreak for you? And have you ever caught yourself accidentally recreating those eldest daughter dynamics, like over functioning, fixing, and absorbing inside your work?
Yeah, I'm sure. And I love being my own boss now, but it is very easy to just then work all the time, especially like social media. You always feel like you should be creating more, posting more. And I really do it on the side. It's just something I care about. So
Mm-hmm.
I always feel guilty that I'm like not doing more. And I'm always like kind of jealous when I meet the people who do it full time. And I'm like, oh, they're putting out such amazing information. And like, oh, like, I don't know. Um, so I don't know how to deal with that. Like you can always be doing more and we're like such type A high achievers. So how are you ever going to like be satisfied or settle a little bit, if you're always like, I can do more.
Yeah, I do feel like one kind of secret that I've learned is, and I've started two companies, and this is my third kind of venture, but I think I used to be so hard on myself for, I don't know, not getting the thing done or not getting the three things done. And now, as a woman in her 50s, I feel like I look back at every day and I'm like, that was a good day. I accomplished a lot. I want to give myself credit because there is always tomorrow. There is always next week. There is always a
Yeah.
month. I don't feel so much like the gerbil on the wheel,
That might
you
even
know?
be just like from where I am to where you are, like you get better at being like, I did great.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's a never-ending cycle, Ashley. I mean, we we can't do it all and we will break ourselves trying to. But we're doing more than most people, or we're doing just as much as our friends, or we have those people who are pie in the sky, like our mentors, people who motivate us. And everybody just kind of fits in this world in different places and spaces. So we can't always be at the top of our game every single day. That's just not sustainable.
Yeah. I will say like once a week I kind of like get exhausted and it's routine now. So where I'm actually like sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna let myself have like a less productive day, which sounds like not that groundbreaking, but it's almost like just giving yourself like a little ease of like it's okay to like once a week be a little tired and like not get a million things done. Because
Yeah, it
weekends
is.
are so busy with kids, like they're not really a break, you
Yeah.
know?
And it's only going to get busier, as they get older. And again, they need you in different ways. And like, I don't know if you volunteer like at the school or, you help them with sports. I mean, you're driving them everywhere at
Yeah.
this phase, and it gets better. So I came across a question that I loved yesterday. And it's like, if you could go back and tell your 13-year-old self anything about the chaos and the mental load, the emotional load, like what would your advice to that 13-year-old be?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I think at 13 I thought like the situation I was in was normal. So
Mm,
it's nice to have like a little more clarity now and like even put labels on things of what was really going on.
mhm.
I just felt like a lot of like, oh, that was something and that's why it was hard, you know, like,
Yeah, you'd validate. Am I hearing that
yeah,
correctly? You'd validate your own feelings at that point.
yeah. Or like
Yeah, I
sometimes it takes like someone outside of you being like the first time I went to therapy and they were like, oh, that is a lot. Like I always felt like I didn't have enough bad things to complain about until eventually I did. But
yeah.
even having
So
them be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. And I was like, it is, right? Like, thank
it
you.
is. So how do you feel about therapy now? Is it something that you practice? Do you tell me how big of a part of your life it was having, gotten
Um,
your degree?
well, I just started, I mentioned like my brother passed away this year, and I actually had started therapy like the week before that. And then I've gone to two different people a few times, and it's crazy, but literally, just the time of driving there and going to therapy and driving back, I'm finding it really hard to fit in my schedule, which is like I fit in the physical health, but I probably need to fit in the mental health,
Hmm. Yeah.
better. And I struggle. This is probably like like an eldest daughter thing. Like I struggle with not having like productive steps come out of it.
Oh, really? Tell me about
I'm
that.
like, what's our action plan? Like, what are we gonna do to like move ahead? And
I do
it's
think
probably
that means, well, and
there's
that
probably not always an action plan.
well, you know what? I think it's also about finding the right therapist.
Yeah. Like it
Because I'm
feels
like,
great to complain for a while, but then I'm like, okay, well, I've complained enough now, and now I want to like make positive forward movement.
yeah, yeah. I get that. I really do understand that fully. I'm a huge proponent of therapy because there were patterns that I was recreating, I didn't realize this until I was in my probably 40s, maybe late 30s, early 40s. And I had a therapist say to me, well, first of all, I had a friend say to me, you thrive in chaos. You thrive in the chaos. You like the chaos. And I was like, no, I don't like the chaos. I want things to be calm. But was I creating some of that chaos? Sure. I mean, I'll admit that. Did chaos find me? Sure. And then like with relationships, um, a therapist told me the abuse is comfortable.
Mm.
And so sometimes when I would meet people and I would get like a spidey sense, like sometimes it could be excitement or fear or nervousness. And I thought, well, that's just me. It's on me. This person's great. I need to move more towards this relationship. And then I was like, no, I don't. That's the familiar part of being, a victim of child abuse.
Yeah, it's
And so then,
interesting.
yeah, you repeat that. So then I was like, ooh, the abuse is comfortable. I really need to be aware of that. So now I feel like I put that into my practice over like the last 12, 13 years. And when I come across people, I really try to size them up. Like you mentioned, you're a good judge of character. I think I am too, but it's taken me a long time to figure that out.
I
With
feel like I'll read people, and then like years later, something will come out, and I'll be like, I clocked them. Like, I don't know what it's like. I think it's literally like you're so used to like taking the tiniest little things like subconsciously that you don't even know you're doing, but you're like getting a vibe, or.
yeah, yeah. Well, like you and like, me, I know I wrote the article, but many women listening will recognize themselves in this story and they'll also feel terrified to blow up their lives. So for women in their late 40s or 50s who hear us and things, this is me, what is one small safe next step, speaking about your therapy sessions, that these women could take towards their own eldest daughter awakening to kind of maybe change their trajectory, bring more peace into their lives, take better care of themselves? What's your advice?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say maybe like pick one thing that's important to them, like we were talking about, and just like I'm a big fan of breaking things down into like the smallest achievable steps to make it less overwhelming. So
Yeah.
just start with one thing that you can like add back into your life that's for you and try and hold strong on that being important to you, even if like your partner or your children like want that time from you.
Yeah, I think that that's so important, and it's being selfish with whatever that thing is that you choose. And I love that you said, like with your tennis, you schedule that time, nothing interrupts that time. That's for you. It's for you to reconnect with friends and probably playing tennis. You mentioned the strategy of it. You're not able to focus on anything else for that time that you're
Yeah.
there. right?
And then I'm really happy and I'm a nice mom, you know?
Yes, of course, because you are trying to refill your cup so that you can pour from it again, right?
And now I scheduled them to have a lesson at the same time. So now they're all into tennis. So it's all good. It's all adorable.
It,
Like the
it
kids are
is.
all into tennis now too.
That's fantastic. Well, Ashley, I just want to thank you for your honesty and for naming so much of what many eldest daughters carry silently. And for those of you who heard yourselves in this conversation, you are not broken. You are deprogramming. You don't owe anyone a second childhood where you carry the load again. So, my hope is that today gives you language, solidarity, and maybe one small next step. And thank you all for joining. And thank you again, Ashley.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Let's connect again soon.
Yes, we're the same person. So
Yes, I know. Take care.
bye.